Good morning and or afternoon and or evening to everyone, and welcome to our second day of the Global Plant Forward Culinary Summit Virtual Edition. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's programming and came away with some great takeaways around plant forward innovation. We were thrilled to have you and are grateful to our program sponsors for helping us bring this programming to you tuition-free. Please make sure to visit them in the Innovation Hub during the networking and reception today and chat with them as you would if you were at Copia. One of our sponsors, National Peanut Board, has a bonus plant-based demonstration for us. Let's take a look now. Thank you, National Peanut Board. This video, along with all of the presentation decks, recipes, and other presenter videos, are all posted to our website, and the password was emailed to registered attendees earlier this week. And here's a glimpse of what we're up to today. You'll see we've got a great mix of general sessions, breakout sessions, as well as lots of networking time for you to engage with your fellow attendees. Yesterday, we spent a lot of time in the proverbial air, virtually jetting around from Argentina to Australia, Marrakesh to Mendocino, and a host of destinations in between. Today, we're going to continue that traveling theme, but we're going to keep it more focused on the land. Before I introduce our moderator / tour guide for this next session, we've got a new poll question for you. Which of the following is most important to you when making produce purchasing decisions? That is over in the polls tab. And the choices are certified organic, regenerative agriculture, locally grown, or produce that takes less water to grow. Let us know what your priorities are in the poll feature. And now to guide us through our tour of agricultural operations around the country, I'm pleased to welcome Kathleen Finlay, president of the Glynwood Center for Regional Food and Farming, which is located in the Hudson Valley, just up the road from the CIA's campus in Hyde Park. Hello, Kathleen.
Hi, how you doing? Great to be here. Great, so such an honor to be here and take you on this Zoom tour. We're going to visit 3 different farming operations, and all of them are really different. We have a rural farm in New York, we have an urban farm in Detroit, and an island farm in Puerto Rico. So you'll get a breadth of kind of what farming looks like in these 3 different places. And you'll hear, I think, some themes emerge. All of them are dedicated to feeding their communities and working with sustainable and regenerative practices on their sites, and in their own unique way, facing the challenges of farming today and feeding healthy food to the people in their communities. So I'm really excited to lead you on this tour. We're going to start with a short video that will capture the Glynwood Center for Regional Food and Farming, and that is my home base. So we are a nonprofit that works to promote regional food in the Hudson Valley, and we do that to the benefit of our health and the health of the environment and our local economies. So first, let's take a look at the farming at Glynwood with this short video.
Hi, my name is Nicole Scott, and I'm the Livestock Manager at the Glynwood Center for Regional Food and Farming down in the lower Hudson Valley of New York State. I'm joining you from our Big Red Barn, where our ruminants spend the winter. We are an agricultural nonprofit, and we have a certified animal welfare approved diversified livestock operation on site. Right behind me, you'll see our flock of sheep, where we have around 20 ewes that are due to lamb in around 6 weeks. Every season, we raise between 20 to 25 ewes on pasture and then finish around 40 lambs on grass. We also have a small herd of cattle. We raise around 15 cow-calf pairs. It's a mix of Black Angus, Dexter, and Red Devon genetics. Our cattle are 100% grass-fed and finished. Now, we also raise a few other species that aren't in the barn. So we raise around 20 pigs every season. They're a cross between Tamworth and Old Spot genetics, and they're fed a non-GMO corn-based feed and spend their entire lives on pasture. We also raise a good number of poultry. We raise around 600 meat chickens or broilers every season, and they're also fed a non-GMO corn-based feed. They are managed on pasture as well. They follow our ruminants to the pastures, adding fertility back to the land. And lastly, we raise around 100 turkeys every year. So this season we'll be raising bourbon red turkeys, also on pasture, and they're also fed a non-GMO feed.
Hi, I'm Jarret Nelson. I'm the vegetable farmer at the Glynwood Center for Regional Food and Farming. We're standing in here in one of our high tunnels. We grow vegetables on 7 acres here. They're certified organic, and we're growing around 55 different crops. Our produce is sold in our farm store. We're also now donating 25% of our produce to local food pantries we're partnered with. And the majority of our produce is going to our CSA subscription members, which is now happening year-round. In this chart and tail, you see our 4 winter CSA members. And this tunnel is completely unheated, so it's a little challenging to grow here. It does get down to single digits sometimes, but it's more sustainable, and these crops are super cold hardy. So just having the tunnel, and I use these row cover blankets on really cold nights, and they'll actually completely freeze. And sometimes in the morning they just look dead, and I think I've killed everything, but then an hour later the sun comes out and they just magically come back to life like nothing happened. And the cool part of that is that they use sugars to create a natural antifreeze to keep themselves from freezing too hard. And that actually makes the crops much sweeter. So it's almost like a completely different product. So the winter kale, sometimes just like eat out of the bag. It's kind of like candy. So we also train farmers in these regenerative agricultural techniques. So our farmer training program, I have 3 vegetable apprentices every year. They're here for 9 months. They've had a couple years of experience, but are really looking to pursue a career in agriculture. And I find that work really rewarding. I think in order to have a future where we protect the climate and also have food security, we're going to need a new generation of farmers who understands how to farm the way we're doing it here. And I feel good about the work we're doing with that.
Awesome. So I'm going to welcome to the live stage Nicole Scott. Nicole is the livestock manager for Glynwood, and she's just going to talk a little bit more about some of the topics we addressed in the video. So Nicole, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and so Jarret was just talking about our farmer training program. It's so important to train new farmers and help develop their careers, as many of our farmers are aging out or choosing not to go into farming if their family had farmed for generations. And as a Glynwood apprentice alum, one of the things that we do at Glynwood is really support early entry businesses in farming. Can you tell us a little bit more about the incubator program and how you as an aspiring farmer might benefit from that resource?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much, Kathleen. And so right, one of the core pieces of our work here at Glynwood is training farmers. And so we do that through the apprenticeship program, like Jarret mentioned, but then we also work with farm businesses in their early years, about years 2 through 5, and provide them various like technical assistance services. So we do all that through our Hudson Valley Farm Business Incubator program. And we work with about 10 different businesses and offer business planning and financial management workshops, and link them with consultants that can help them with anything from legal advising to helping with access to land, which are all very important services for folks in that startup phase of their farm business.
Yeah, great. And what are some of the other things that you hope to achieve in the farmer training program, especially in terms of what kind of farmers, what farmers we're attracting, if they're first generation farmers, or how diverse the farming is in the Hudson Valley?
Yeah. So on the livestock side of our farm operation, and with the livestock apprenticeship, I'm really focused on bringing more diverse folks, diverse voices, and more people of color into the program. So, we acknowledge as an organization that we're a predominantly white organization, and in terms of livestock farming, it's been an industry that's been dominated by white men. And so we're looking to change that. We really want to bring in new voices and train people in an inclusive environment to ensure that we're not only just bringing more folks of color into like livestock farming, into the farming system, but we're giving them the support they need to be successful and to continue down this career path.
Yeah, it's so great and so important. And, it's my understanding that it's pretty difficult to find livestock apprentice opportunities anywhere in the country. Can you talk a little bit about when you were looking around for training, leaving an academic organization, what are the resources that are out there and how can we grow them?
Yeah, so I went to college a few years ago and studied animal science. And while I was there, I learned sort of all the theoretical pieces of animal husbandry, but didn't get a lot of hands-on experience. So when I left school, I was looking for that piece. And when I was doing that, it was tough to find programs in this part of the world, in the Northeast, that where I would have the time to still learn and get that practical piece, but then also earn enough money to get by and to deal with those student loans that I had coming out of school. So, it's one thing that we're really focused on here at Glynwood is ensuring that folks are earning a living wage while taking the time to learn and grow as farmers. And so one thing that we're working on is creating a larger network in the Hudson Valley and then within the Northeast to be able to support young entry farmers, new entry farmers, to be able to find different farms that suit their needs and fit best with their vision of the sort of farms they want to start up one day.
Fantastic. And because the focus of this conference is about plants, I'd love it if you could talk a little bit about animal and meat and help us understand how all meat is not created equal and that there are real differences between the type of meat we produce at Glynwood, for example, and what you might find in a supermarket.
Yeah, so here at Glynwood, Jarret had mentioned we're really focused on regenerative principles really across the farm. And so with livestock, the way we do that is by practicing rotational grazing and working within a pasture-based system for all of our different species. So a lot of the food that or meat that you end up buying in the grocery store is conventionally raised and maybe corn fed and corn finished. And while that creates very cheap, affordable meat, sort of at the in the grocery store, it really destroys the land and is really extractive. So we're working to improve nutrient cycling and nutrient management on our property and by having our animals rotate through the pastures and add back fertility, and really show apprentices how that's done. And so people can replicate this system on other farms within the region and then across the country.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing the farm with us and a little bit of your story. And we'll let you get back to those beautiful animals. Thanks, Nicole. Great. So now we are zooming over to Natosha Tallman. Natosha is the program director at Oakland Avenue Farms, and that is an urban farm located in the north end of Detroit, dedicated to cultivating healthy foods and sustainable communities and economies, and has a lot of cultural events that bring the community together around food. Welcome, Natosha.
Well, thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Natosha, please say hello and then take us on a tour of your wonderful farm there in Detroit.
Great. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be here with you. I am starting our virtual tour inside of one of our greenhouses here on the farm. It's our sowing greenhouse. You'll see right now, it's because it's beginning of the season, it's not as full. But I'm excited to tell you our story. So Northern Christian CDC owns and operates Oakland Avenue Urban Farm, which is located on our 6-acre campus in the historic north end of Detroit. We've excelled as a source of high quality food, job creation, and community, while establishing ourselves as an equitable community food hub that's been recognized nationally and internationally. Now, prior to the COVID-19 crisis, local food saw pressures from factory food supported by poor public policy, right? This screamed for a new new market model, which incorporates good public health practices, cogent business strategy, and the ability to withstand competition while focusing on an Earth First centered and sustainable community effort, right? Now, ultimately, Northern Christian CDC has addressed food insecurity since 1999. And that was accomplished through our founder, Reverend Bertha L. Carter, who started feeding the homeless in the historic North End community from the back of her van by providing food items from Kroger's meatpacking houses and bakeries. However, Northern Christian CDC became a 501c3 organization in 2000. And in 2009, if you guys can see in front of me here, in 2009, Oakland Avenue Community Garden broke ground as a result of community engagement, outreach, and partnership with the Greening of Detroit. And a decade later, here we are, the garden has expanded to a total of 6 acres of land that we now fondly call Oakland Avenue Urban Farm. Now, as mentioned, we are an established food value chain in Detroit's historic North End. And we have an excellent relationship and reputation for providing quality nutritional food in an area that's traditionally known as a food desert. Now, prior to COVID-19, we and our partners served the community at great risk of food insecurity, many lacking access to basic transportation and some living in homes without basic needs such as gas, electricity, or water. And of course, as imagined, the pandemic made those issues grow catastrophically worse. Hello, Jesse. Jesse is one of our farm team members as well. Takes care of the farm. We are going to take a trip in here into another one of our high tunnels where we keep our GAP certified spinach. And I will remove a row cover so you can see how beautiful it is. But here, we grow vegetables. We've learned to extend our growing season so that we grow our GAP certified spinach year round. Now, with the COVID-19 challenge, even the survival of the urban farmers market model, which has been successful nationwide, was kind of really put on the spotlight for things such as privilege, right? Access and privilege. Now, our historic and proposed project builds the capacity of our historically marginalized food growers, processors, and sellers I know it's like, what are we looking at here? So this is the future home of our Food Hub headquarters. I wanted to show you guys that as well. But again, our historic proposed project builds the capacity of our historically marginalized food growers, processors, sellers, and consumers. We are at the precipice of launching Shop Detroit Farms, which is an online marketplace platform for Black and Brown local growers in the city of Detroit. And last year, in partnership with D-Town Farm, we were able to offer small local growers such as Gabby's Garden a platform to sell healthy and nutritious herbs, as well as distribution and marketing management. And as a result of other initiatives such as the Black Farmers Land Fund, in which 30 African American growers in the city of Detroit were awarded money raised to purchase land in the city to expand their capacity, we're also expanding our capacity as food aggregators in the local market. Now, currently we are in phase 1 rehabilitation of our Food Hub headquarters, which I showed you guys. I'm going to turn here maybe so you can see the front, which is called The Landing, which will feature a commercial kitchen incubator space. I'm sorry, guys. I do have notes here. They're blowing all over the place. It's super windy today. It's been so beautiful. Like, it was 70 degrees yesterday, and today it's 50. This is Michigan. 50 and windy. But so currently we're rehabilitating our community kitchen, the Landing, which would be a commercial kitchen incubator space for food growers, food entrepreneurs, and also to serve as the space for food aggregation. Here you'll see some of our farm team members. We do operate under a precipice that we call healing workforce development. And so all of the people who work at our farm are locally from the community or they are a hard to hire individual. And so you'll see some of the guys out here now working the land. We're super excited because under normal circumstances, we only have about 3.5 acres of production land out of the full 6 acre campus. But this year we are expanding that production area. And so you'll see the guys here working on that. And I wish I had something, something to show you guys that we're growing, but we're just preparing the land. Yeah. So that is that. Does anyone have questions or?
Sure. I'll ask you a few questions, Natosha.
Oh,
can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Great. Well, thanks so much for that tour. Tell us a little bit more about how you've been able to get the fresh food to folks grown by BIPOC farmers to the communities because of the economic hit of COVID.
Right. So fortunately, we received quite a bit of funding last year to conduct CSA programming. That's number one. We also received funding to start the online marketplace. But our CSA boxes, we supplemented them with fresh produce from local growers. We were able to provide funding for them as well to pay for their produce to supplement these boxes. And I would say all of last year, and we're even continuing it this year, every Friday and Saturday, we give away about 100 food boxes weekly.
Great. That's great. And then again, just underscoring the importance of supporting BIPOC farmers. I've been following the Justice for Black Farmers Act, and now that that's wrapped it up in the COVID relief, are some of your farmers anticipating benefiting from some of the policy changes that we might be able to see down the road in the near future here?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's just a simple yes.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Great. And you're also working with local chefs and restaurants as they get back into business there in Detroit. Is that right? How's that going?
Well, yes, we are. Right now, we actually service local restaurants and businesses, local chefs as well. We provide fresh produce for them, which then also means that we also create the opportunity for smaller growers as we aggregate their produce as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Natosha, for showing us around on a windy day. And I just am so excited about the work that you're doing there. And especially, it sounds like you're getting some resources to be able to expand the work and serve more folks and support more farmers and producers and aggregators, which is how we get healthy food to the most people. So thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Great. Do you want to wave bye? Can we see you one more time? Thanks, Natosha. Have a great day.
So welcome.
Great. Okay. We are continuing our diverse tour of places. And now we're going to visit Efren Robles and Angeli Martinez. Their farm is Frutos del Guacabo, and it is in Puerto Rico. And so excited to invite them onto the stage and learn more about their efforts to connect community to growing. They're working with lots of restaurants and chefs and really creating food sovereignty in Puerto Rico. So it is a pleasure to have you both join us today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. We are glad to be here. My name is Angeli Martinez, and he is Efren Robles.
So we're going to be trying to do an X-ray of our business, Frutos del Guacabo, which we call our culinary canvas. It's basically a hub. It was founded back in 2010, and we're located in the north side of the island, Manatí, Puerto Rico. As you can see, that's the entrance of our place. It's less than an acre big. In that facility, we grow in different growing methods, such as hydroponic, agroecological. We have small ruminants and different animals, and we combine everything inside there to make it as sustainable as possible. We also have a small kitchen where we produce value-added products to minimize the percent of loss and to increase the margins of the farm. We work with about 40 farmers in the north central area, and we deliver to restaurants and hotels to about 200 accounts total. Why we call it a culinary canvas or an agroculinary canvas? We try to use it as a place where, as a live lab, places where we can bring different farmers and try different products, adjust to our climates, which is a benefit from us, and we can insert different products into our local gastronomy. We work trying to figure out what the chef needs, working hand to hand with them and creating new flavors, new leaves, flowers such as microgreens, and trying different cooking methods at the facility. We work all around, the agricultural scene, but also the culinary scene. We also use our facility as an educational center. We do workshops, internship. We do team building events for the different parts of the community, and we have a very close relationship with the chef, with the waiters, understanding what the commensal is in need of or what people are looking for. We have created an ecosystem that is impacting our local economy. It's part of what we do. We try to use farming. We import about 85% of what we consume. So mostly what we're trying to accomplish is minimize the importation rate and be able to increase some of the economic side of it. So we go from planting, harvesting, and now in this pandemic changes, we all seen on this new era how important is the local production. How efficient it is to produce locally. And with our facility, what we do is that we try to accomplish the test of different products, and then from here we take it to different farmers. We definitely need to adjust to different topographies, but pretty much the plan is the same. We just usually start with flowers and combine it with beans and different animals in order to create an ecosystem. Now we've been working on our resiliency for a couple of years now. So you guys can see we've been hit through different storms and earthquakes and you name it, and we've probably been going through it. And now with the border closures, that we've probably all seen lately, it's been something that we had to increment our local production, and it's the monocrops production of farming is no longer the main key of the new farmers that are coming into the game. Everybody wants to be producing diverse, and understanding what the client needs is the key for a farmer to be successful in here. We work on the local and global economy as we see. We've been producing products that are not commonly used in Puerto Rico, but are definitely adjusting to our time, to our times, and creating new place for chef and new flavors, like I mentioned before. What we've seen lately is, since this pandemic, is a new industry change or an industry shift. What's happening is that a lot of places have to slow down or shut down. So we've been seeing a lot of these ghost kitchens that are being producing at a different way, but at least we have the products to be able to produce, and the channels already created to be able to supply that food. For example, before we used to, a client used to go to a chef and a chef used to come to a farmer. Now it's kind of a different scenario. Now the chef probably goes to a farmer, and then the farmer goes directly, in our case, as a hub to the client, not only to supply restaurants and hotels, but also to residencies based, providing products from chef and raw products from farmers. So what you guys are seeing here is our little community store. We incorporate agroecological tours, and people we work in an educational base. So mostly what we do is just educate people and make them understand what we can grow and why it needs to happen, in the food processing way. We focus on the sustainable and health way of producing. Shortening this distribution chain, it makes a hell of a difference. We've been able to obtain the best nutritional content of the products, and the flavors are more intense when you harvest something close to the production area. Our playground is very small, so we had to maximize it at all levels. What you guys see on the left are the goats. We use that compost, and we make a Chevre Fermier cheese locally there. And the change is very quick. It takes 2 days to make the cheese, and probably 1 day before it gets to the point. So people are seeing the quality of those products at the end. Now, when we talk about innovation, we've been working closely to chefs, and mostly with all these new garnish and gimmicks of the decoration of the place. They're usually used for cocktails, for pastry, for medicinal. But now, seeing the layoff that has been going through the pandemic, we've seen this huge demand on the ghost kitchen side, and being a diverse farm is the key for us to being able to supply what the customer need on a timely basis. We also do microgreens, which we see as a great complement, as a great tool for farmers that only have limited space. Before our era of farming, people needed a lot of farms to be able to grow. And now we've been able to have tools such as hydroponics and microgreens in order to operate at a smaller scale. And with a diversity of products, you can definitely make a sustainable project out of it. When we started with hydroponics. Those are hydroponics. We do not believe in monocrops. We work with about 6 to 9 different products, and what we create on that hydroponics is an ecosystem inside there. We have arugula, bok choy, a spring mix, different type of products that one helps the other or repels some of the pests. And with that, not only we've been able to sustain that ecosystem there, but also to supply different products to the industry. What that pretty much resumes what we have to offer. What we like you guys to see is that this model is a sustainable model that it could be replicated anywhere. If you work on sustainable production such as the one we do, doesn't have to be really big in order to make it happen. So if you guys are interested in finding about more about us, that's our information there. We really thank you for the time, and we hope that you guys can come here to Puerto Rico and visit us. It's 82 degrees today, by the way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, both of you. And What a wonderful, a whole toolkit of different options that you have that you've developed there on how to deal with these challenges. And that's a sign of resilience, is to have so much diversity. So really took that away from your presentation today, Anjali and Efren. And I'll wrap up and say thank you to all of our speakers. I mean, I think that as promised, three really different operations, but all with some very similar North Stars: food sovereignty, really supporting BIPOC farmers and historically marginalized farmers, and feeding healthy food to their communities. And that's what farmers are all about, like you all. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Efren and Anjali. Thank you also, Kathleen, and again to our other farmers and representatives of our farmers, Natosha, Nicole, and to Jarret. And thank you so much for shepherding us through these tours, Kathleen. One thing that really strikes me in this whole session and all these farms is recognizing the way going plant forward and growing plant forward concepts is also really about supporting a lot of these other initiatives, as Kathleen mentioned, around sovereignty, around food sovereignty, around building more resilient systems, addressing social issues and racial and diversity issues. And to know that all of these people that we're talking to, while they're doing things on a smaller scale and looking at regenerative agriculture and sustainability, they're also doing it in ways that support their local restaurants and larger food systems at scale, which is really impressive. So let's check in on our poll results after going on those farm tours, and give me just a second to pull it up. Actually, maybe not surprisingly, given that we really got a sense of place from all these farm tours, many of you are saying that locally grown is the most important to you when making produce purchasing decisions. So really interesting stuff there. Now, to help us translate this appreciation for the land back into innovation in the kitchen, I'm delighted to bring my colleague, Dr. Anne McBride, to the stage. You might have caught Anne in yesterday's Plant Forward Desserts breakout session, and she's no stranger to Global Plant Forward, having launched the summit in 2019 and serving as its program director for 2 years. She's also currently the deputy director of the Tora Bora Mediterranean Center, as well as the program director for our Worlds of Flavor International Festival and Conference. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you, Jackie. And what an inspiration to visit all of these farms. I definitely look forward to being back on the road and going to these wonderful operations. So I clearly don't need to sell you on farm to table. And of course, all produce in the kitchen comes from some sort of farm. What we're talking about in the second part of this off the land session is what happens when you have a deeper, more symbiotic relationship with the land where your ingredients come from. And not just your ingredients, but your family, your heritage, your culture, your traditions, your beliefs, your foodways. We're lucky to have two extraordinary presenters join us, both chefs and both investigators of flavor down to the roots, literally and metaphorically. We'll have time for questions at the end, at the end of each of the presenters' segments. So enter them in the chat at any time. And both Lois and Matthew will also be part of Meet the Author sessions at the break. So you'll have more time with them than what will be on the screen now. So we're going to start with a couple of demos by our first presenters, Dr. Lois Ellen Frank, who will then join us live. Dr. Lois Ellen Frank is the chef owner of Red Mesa Cuisine in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a catering company specializing in the revitalization of ancestral Native American cuisine with a modern twist, where she cooks alongside Native American chef Walter Whitewater. She has spent over 30 years documenting and working with the foods and lifeways of Native American communities in the Southwest, and you'll get to see some of her work in this video. So let's roll it.
Hi. My name is Lois Ellen Frank, and I'm the chef owner of Red Mesa Cuisine in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm going to show you how to make culinary ash from juniper. We're using branches from the juniper today. I've cut branches and cut them into small pieces, which I'm putting on a tray, and we're going to put that in the oven. Culinary ash is very important in Native American cuisine history. This ash goes back thousands of years, and Native people have been using this ash to add nutrients, including calcium, to the cornmeal that we use for a variety of dishes. 1 teaspoon of this culinary ash has the equivalent of calcium as a glass of milk. So if we look historically back in our traditions, most Native people didn't use dairy. And we didn't use dairy because we had our culinary ash. So culinary ash, very, very, very important. So I take my branches and I'm going to put them in an oven and we're going to let them cook. I actually have a tray of branches that have been cooking and nicely dried. And we're going to take this outside and I'm going to show you how to make the culinary ash. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to take some of these branches and we want to put them, I'm using a metal wok, which is safe to use. And we want to just take this culinary ash, light these branches so that the branches can burn. And when the branches burn, they start to turn white. And it's this white part of the branches that we want to use for our culinary ash. So let the fire start to get with the orange flames, and then we're going to actually take it, I have a little fan here, and I'm just gonna let those branches burn until they turn white. It's the white part of the ash that we're gonna be using for our traditional corn dish. And so we just wanna make sure that that burns properly and burns all the way through. Once you have your culinary ash, I just put it in a jar and then I have enough to use. So you could actually make quite a bit, or you can just make what you need. We need about a teaspoon for our corn mush, our corn pudding that we're gonna do, and that's gonna be the next episode, and I'm gonna teach you how to do corn mush layered together with boiled reduced berries. So take a look here at this. You can actually see that branches burning down, see that white part. That's the white part that we want to use to strain for the culinary ash. So you can see those embers burning. That's exactly what we want to use for the culinary ash. So once everything has burned all the way down, you're just going to take a strainer. And I've got just a household strainer here. I'm going to take the ashes from the bottom of the pan, the white part of those ashes. You can actually see it gathering on the bottom, and put it in a strainer. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to tap that strainer, and you can actually see the ashes coming out on this. And for this particular recipe, see all that? That's the perfect ash. What we want is we only need about a teaspoon. We're gonna be able to make more than that. So we're straining out the part that is not all the way cooked or not white. And take a look at this beautiful culinary ash here. This is exactly what we want. We actually have more than what we need for the recipe. We only need a teaspoon. And so we now have culinary ash, and we're ready to make any of the corn dishes that require the culinary ash. Today, we're going to mix that ash with blue cornmeal. We're using blue cornmeal from Tamaya, which is Santa Ana Pueblo, and I'm going to take cold water and put cold water into the blue cornmeal and mix it. What we want to do, using either a whisk or we can use traditional stirring sticks. These stirring sticks were given to me by Walter Whitewater's grandmother from the Navajo Nation. We want to make sure that we stir and it's all stirred, all that cornmeal is mixed together. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take some boiling water and we're going to put the boiling water in a pot. We're going to take 1 teaspoon of the culinary ash that we made, and we're going to mix that in with the cornmeal. Again, using a traditional stirring stick, we want to make sure that we stir that ash so that it's all the way mixed in the blue cornmeal. To the boiling water, we're going to add this cold mixture and we're going to let it cook. And as it cooks, it's going to thicken. This thick mush can be made with any kind of cornmeal. Blue corn, white corn, yellow corn, or red corn. It makes a delicious breakfast. You can use it as a drink. It's perfect for elders or kids. It's also very healthy as a snack. You can use it as a pudding. You can freeze it to make ice cream. You can add berries to it, sliced apples, nuts, any number of different kinds of products. You can add choke cherry syrup if you've made that, prickly pear syrup. You can add red chili if you prefer red chili. So anything can be added to this and it can be eaten. And at Red Mesa, Walter and I actually use this blue corn mush and we layer it together with a boiled down berry mixture like a compote, and we make it into a Native American parfait. What you can start to see happening is that the blue corn is starting to thicken. That means that it's cooking and it's almost ready. We're going to let this blue corn mixture boil, and actually when it boils, see, it's starting to get nice and thick now. And this blue cornmeal, look at that. Oh, amazing. That means that the cornmeal is just about ready. You want to constantly stir this so that it doesn't splatter and it starts to get nice and thick. Once it's nice and thick, we're going to take a plate and we're actually going to show you how we would serve this. We would serve this in a bowl. And I'm going to just take a spoon and take this amazing cornmeal. Look at that, beautiful color. It's got flavor. It's very nutritious and very delicious. And you can serve it plain. You can serve it right now. I'm going to take a couple of slices of apple. We can stick some apple, fresh apple in there. Nice little piece of mint. And we can serve it plain, or we can take just a little bit. Here I'm going to use just a little bit of prickly pear and garnish it. You could use any kind of syrup. That's how we would serve it. And again, very, very, very healthy. You could use chili. You could sprinkle some nuts on top. Wow, that makes an amazing dish. This dish is nutritious, delicious, easy to make, very healthy, using ancestral native foods.
Wow, indeed. This is definitely something I want to try. And we some of the questions that are in the chat already are similar to mine. Welcome, Dr. Frank.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So there's a couple of questions from the audience that I want to go straight to because they pertain to the video. Can you use any type of juniper, and how do you harvest juniper sustainably if you're hiking, for example?
What we do is we sort of utilize what is indigenous to our area. I'm in Santa Fe and we have juniper and we're using the branches. As long as you don't go in and cut down the whole tree, taking a couple of branches to make ash would be sustainable. But that's a really good question, because whenever we're dealing with wild foods, wild harvesting, we usually follow an indigenous protocol, and that protocol is to talk to that plant, talk to that tree, make an offering, make a relationship with that plant, harvest only what you need, never harvest more, always leave enough so that the plant can regenerate, repropagate, and that there's enough to, with all the other creatures and all the other beings that share this land with us. So we're very, very, very careful to never overtake anything and make something unsustainable that's a sustainable practice.
Mm-hmm. And this connects to this idea of foodscape that you talk about. Can you elaborate on that for the audience?
Sure. So a foodscape is really the idea that there's much more than a landscape. There's a smellscape, there's a soundscape. I call this a foodscape. And the foodscape is the experience. So it's experiential knowledge. And if I were to translate that into a layman's term, and I always teach this when I teach all of my students and any of the educational programs that we do, it's called TEK. And it's traditional ecological knowledge. So knowledge based on the environment in which you live. And all of us have this indigenous knowledge based on the land that we live from. And so the foodscape is the scape from this indigenous knowledge surrounding the land. So just like harvesting the juniper where we live, many East Coast tribes don't have juniper, so they would harvest and use a different kind of wood ash. So it's the idea that the branches or the leaves or the wood will make the ash, and the ash is a nutritious ingredient in our indigenous food. So again, this foodscape is about knowledge passed down from generation to generation. I think one of the biggest things in Native ideology is that even though many of the traditions are oral, they still have a lot of science to them, and they still have a lot of validity. And that validity is that when we pass down information through our songs, our stories, our beliefs, our recipes, our language, that knowledge is thousands of years old and has a great deal of validity. And that is the foodscape of which we create our cuisine.
And is this the kind of knowledge that non-natives should have access to, could have access to, and if yes, how?
So everyone's indigenous. We're all indigenous people, right? Everyone is indigenous to somewhere. And that knowledge is really about that ecosystem, that system with which we live. And that can be shared, and that can be taught, and that can be exchanged. In the Southwest, I have TEK surrounding this area because I've lived here so long. But if I were to go maybe to the Northwest Coast or to the East Coast, maybe my indigenous knowledge about that area isn't as prolific. And so I would learn from the indigenous people from that area. And that absolutely can be shared to perpetuate sustainability and knowledge that can be passed down for generations to come.
Great. We are unfortunately already out of time for this portion, but the great news is that you're continuing this discussion in the Meet the Author during the break. So there's a question on using culinary ash in masa, for example. I invite the person to join you in the Meet the Author and for all other indigenous knowledge that you're willing to share. So thank you so much, Dr. Frank. Such a pleasure to be with you. We are now transitioning to Georgia. To the land and kitchen of Matthew Rayford. Matthew holds degrees in culinary arts from the CIA and ecological horticulture from UC Santa Cruz, and he's the chef owner and sixth-generation farmer at Gilliard Farms, a sibling-run sustainable farm in Brunswick, Georgia. It has been owned and operated by his family since 1874. Matthew is the author of Breast and Yam, which will be released May 11th, 2021, so very soon, and he will also be in the Meet the Author session at the break. He's a descendant of the freshwater Galagichi, which is what his cookbook is based on. Matthew will join us live after his video demo, so let's roll it.
Hey, how's it going? This is Chef Farmer Matthew Rayford. I am in my kitchen lab right now. A little bit of everything going on here. Got my books lined up, seasonings, spices on the other wall behind me. I have dishes and all that kind of good stuff. Hopefully everybody's having a great day today. I am getting ready to do a dish called Turnip Two Ways. I am going to do one of the recipes, and that is actually a turnip salad. And I literally started doing this kind of as a funny haha, but I grew up eating a mess of greens. And so a mess of greens is like turnips, mustard, collards all cooked down together. Sometime with some smoked meat, sometime with like a steak seasoning or something to give it that smokiness. But this is a salad version of dealing with turnips. So these are the turnip greens. These are the turnips. This is the turnip right here. I have a little bit of green onion. In the recipe right there, it actually calls for cipollini onions. But I'm on the farm today and I didn't have any cipollini, so I just pulled these right out of the ground. And so here we are. First things first, one of the things that I always try my best to do is I like feeding my chickens. So when I do things like this, I usually feed the chickens with things like this. Or if you wanted, because one of the things it says in the recipe is to peel the turnip. Some people like the skin. I just got in the habit of peeling the turnip because my chickens love turnips for some reasons. And so I'm gonna make sure they always have some. So I get this nicely peeled right here. So you see how we got this all nicely peeled. I then you want to thinly slice it. I like using a little Ben Reiner because I can just get it really nicely sliced, super thin. Be very careful because sometimes you can accidentally nick your fingers. You don't want to do that, anybody. Now we have some of the thin cut turnips. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to rough chop some green onion. Oh, I don't know what happened here. Okay. By the way, you can save these bottoms, especially where the roots are. I actually save the bottoms and I actually replant them. So I just cut them up, I replant them, and then before you know it, boom, about 60, well, not even 60, shoot, what am I saying? Like 45 days later, I have a full new bunch of green onions. So let's go for it. You want to be plant forward and use it all up. Woo! I love the smell of fresh green onions, fresh out of the garden. It's amazing. Hey, here we go. Okay. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm in here by myself trying to do this. So I apologize if it's a little crazy, but we try to make it work, right? Yes, we do. Here we go. So we have the greens right here. So all we got to do with the greens is we just go ahead, pull them apart. I usually strip them because the rib of the green is a little tough to eat. It's a little rough. I oftentimes use it when I'm making stock. I like that little bite and herbaceousness that it gives. And it's not that hard to do either. So as you see, I'm just ripping these greens off of here. Then all we got to do is, because it's a salad, right? And this is actually going to be my dinner tonight. So, oops. Okay. So we get all that in our bowl. So now our bowl has the green onion, it has the turnips, and it has the turnip greens. Now what we're gonna do is, I have a little bit of creme fraiche here I made earlier. I'm gonna give it a really nice slathering of this creme fraiche. Hey, I'm over here. Okay, a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. No, I'm not Salt Bae, so that's why I just did it like that. Okay, and we also need to have at least, within the recipe, it calls for a couple of tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And then all we have to do is we toss it really quick. So after you get it all tossed, really nice, you want those flavors to mend together. I'm gonna put a little extra pepper in this right here. And a little extra salt. And then what you want to do is you want to take that mix and you want to toss it in the, oh my God, that creme fraiche tastes delicious. You want to go ahead and sit this in the refrigerator for about an hour so all the flavors come together. I'll be right back and I'll show you exactly what I did. So here I go. This is one I made a little bit earlier. As you can see, made a little bit earlier. And so what I do is I serve it with, and there's a recipe in there in my cookbook. I really didn't say too much about that, but inside my cookbook is called Bresam Yam, and it's about being a 6th generation Gullah Geechee chef and farmer and my return home. And so this is one of the recipes that's in Bresam Yam. So here we go. So this is a nice piece of naan. The naan recipe is in the cookbook also. So what I usually do is I usually cut up a few nice little pieces of naan. I actually use the naan bread to eat the salad. I take my little piece of bread, a little piece of naan, excuse me, and I put my little bit of salad in there. And then I kind of fold it over. And then I have, oh my goodness, here we go. Then I have an amazing little snack. I so love this. Please, if you get a chance and want to learn a lot more about, I guess you're not supposed to talk with your mouth full, huh? And want to learn more about Gullah Geechee and being in the coast of Georgia, please grab my book. It's called Breast and Yam. All right, everybody, can't wait to see everybody's smiling faces on the Zoom. All right, bye.
Thank you, Chef Rayford. And someone in the chat was asking the name of the cookbook. So you mentioned it at the end of the video, which is great. Breast and Yam, released May 11th. And you'll be able to pre-order it in the Meet the Author. So Chef Rayford will be joining us. Here he is. Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am doing great. I have no complaints.
Very good. So you're a sixth-generation farmer, a trained chef. What does Plant Forward mean to you?
You know, Plant Forward means to me that I look at all of the things that are growing and figure out different ways to eat it. And it also means, it doesn't mean that I don't eat meat at all. It's just that I eat really good meat. I have kuni hogs on my property. I have access to chicken and lamb and a whole bunch. But it's not that that's the primary on my plate. So when I think about Plant Forward, I think about having a little bit more than just a salad with some balsamic vinegar and olive oil, right? So that's actually why I did the turnip two ways, because a lot of times people don't think about like turnips and rutabagas as like part of a salad per se, unless it's all shaved up or something. And I'm like, it's yumminess, it's vitamins, it's nutrient dense. So when I think like that, I think about being Plant Forward, because even, you know, it's really interesting because being part of being a Gullah Geechee, our food system that we are used to eating is basically plant-based with an addition of seafood and meat and things like that. So yeah, we've always had a chance to be Plant Forward, and so we're going to run with it.
Well, and seafood is something that you mentioned in our prep call as Plant Forward. Can you elaborate on that? Because it's something that a lot of people don't actually think of.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, a sense of place. I love what Lois just said a few minutes ago. Doc just said a few minutes ago, is like where she's located, this is what's available. The juniper is available. And so for where I'm located in Brunswick, like literally from my farm to the ocean is less than 10, 15 minutes. So it's about using what's right there at your disposal to be part of your food system, instead of going somewhere else or just going to the grocery store to purchase it. I mean, my shirt says food security is national security. And I think if we take care of our food system and look at being a little more plant forward on our plate, we also allow our digestive system to react correctly. It allows us to take in more, I'm gonna go back to nutrient dense, more nutrient dense food instead of just, oh my goodness, I just gotta have protein on my plate.
And speaking of nutrients, you've done research on soil and nutrients, right? And the local soil. Talk about that a little bit.
Yes, you know, so I'm located on a silty, sandy loam, and literally, like, nutrients are they're everywhere. And if your soil is alive, so to speak, that's what helps break things down and grow things. And so when I look at the nutrients that are in the soil, I don't think about just nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium or calcium and all those kinds of things. I want to see the living organisms that are in there that produce the nitrogen, the potassium, the calcium, and the phosphorus. And then all of those things through decomposition to beneficial insects, that's what puts that life into that plant to grow and be luscious and great for us to eat.
And so how can the chefs watching work with their local farmers or with their purveyors to push more this notion of soil health and what that means for human health?
Yeah, I think if we get more chefs to actually understand their local food system, which is it's work, it's an additional level of work to do. So it's really about understanding your local food system, understanding the seasonality of food, and then being willing to actually apply that to what you're doing inside of your restaurant, which I believe, especially with COVID-19 and everything else, has become a very important thing to be able to do is wellness and looking at food as wellness. I mean, it definitely was able to show the cracks that are in the system when it comes to food. So yeah, that would be what I would suggest. And even with their purveyors, to ask them, their vendors, like, hey, actually, where does this come from? Like, is there anyone locally that you can pull this food from? So yeah, it's very important to do that.
Do you supply yourself to other restaurants?
Yes, I do. We apply eggs, fresh herbs, and things like that from our farm to other restaurants. We're actually working on a project right now on growing rice, red rice, black rice, and arboreal rice that fall under the upland rice and the SRI rice process, where you're not just flooding fields and keeping water on it, but you're just ensuring that the right amount of moisture is always there for the plant to uptake.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have here. Lots more questions, but you are going to meet the author during the break and people can continue talking with you. And there is at least one other Gullah Geechee person who mentioned that in the chat. So I imagine you'll get a visitor during the Meet the Author. Thank you so much, Chef.
Thank you.
So I hope that these two presentations planted seeds, if you forgive me the pun, for you to further interrogate and deepen your relationship to the land as you think about dishes and menus and about Plant Forward, not just as a label, but really as an all-encompassing guiding philosophy. So on this, I'll pass it back to Jackie.
I love that. Thank you so much, Anne. And to Dr. Frank and Chef Farmer, I love that term also, Chef Farmer Matthew, for showing us how the land's bounty inspires you in the kitchen. In just a bit, we'll be starting another round of breakout sessions. Breakout session B4, Plant Forward in an Evolving World, Keeping Agro-Diversity on the Plate, will be featuring Google's Global Food Operations team. And we've got a special preview of some of the amazing Plant Forward initiatives they have been working on. So let's take a look at that.
The choices we make with food impact our health and well-being, impact the environment. That's why I truly believe that shifting to a balanced plant-forward diet today is better for all. I am Michael Bakker, the leader of the food program at Google. The food team at Google has a long-standing amazing relationship with the Culinary Institute of America. We both believe that the existing food systems are unsustainable for the planet, and therefore we're thinking through what can we jointly do to make a systemic impact. We're very, very excited to continue to work with the Culinary Institute of America on this Plant Forward Kitchen education and certification initiative. Why? To help our culinarians to develop amazing plant-forward menus full of fresh, seasonable fruits and vegetables, grains and beans that are really, really delicious. And we're doing that because we want to ultimately operate our program at scale with our responsibility. There's so much great progress being made, and now think about the future. With additional training, with additional flavors, with additional techniques, think about what we will do tomorrow and what contribution can you make based on the access to what you have.